Alrighty, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new review. Today I'll be talking about how I'm up a little bit over $22,000 day trading the NASDAQ today. And so yeah, let's get into it. So coming into the open with my bias specifically, I wasn't overly one-sided on either direction. What I was more so looking for specifically was a clear and open move. So what we ended up doing here off higher time frame and through overnight price, it wasn't immense. We ended up seeing price kind of consolidate. We ended up seeing the sessions kind of operate in a way where it typically does historically, which is tend to usually trade in a state of consolidation. And so looking at the hourly, there wasn't anything too clear because it's not like we came up here, took out some liquidity through higher time frame, or came down here, took out some liquidity through lower price. We end up seeing price more so just consolidate in range. So kind of coming into the open, watching that 5-minute time frame, what I was looking for price to do here was I was looking for price to more so give me a direction off the opening range move, right? That was more so it. So on a day like today, where when most traders typically take off, I was here more so looking and seeing if price could offer a potential clear opening range move, which could clear up bias. Today would have been a 0.5-hour day despite anything. A reason being obviously because it is a president holiday, right? President Day. And it's also the fact that, again, our bias wasn't ultra clear through a higher time frame here. We more so had to utilize lower time frame towards our advantage. But once we ended up seeing that open through New York, pre-New York, we ended up seeing a really good sell off of London coming down here. And then leading into your New York Open, we see price look for a clear opening range move where we end up seeing price trade under its first area of liquidity, typically overnight session high or low. And you end up seeing price come down here, run through this London low, and showcase interest in drawing lower. What we end up seeing ES do here is end up putting a higher low next to its Asia low. And what you end up seeing NQ do here is you end up seeing NQ put a lower low, right? So this Asia low here that we took out on NQ, we end up seeing price on ES more so place a higher low. And so from here, you could quote unquote say yes, there was a bit of bullish S&P through those lows. But for me specifically, a large part in order for me to look to go flip long intraday, kind of completely ignoring the fact that we had seen such an aggressive sell before the open and the opening range move was bearish. I wanted to see all the sell-side liquidity, essentially our Asia low here through ES get taken out before any interest and potentially looking to go higher. So off the open, we see the opening range move. We see the sell back down. We then see price kind of come back up here initially. And I was on live with my chat talking about this. Although we were seeing this push back up, the key thing I want to see here is off our first retracement, right? And off our first retracement, it'll tell us a lot, right? Essentially, we could build up all we want, but with the strength that we had here, which has been overly aggressive, I wanted to see how price would react off the retracement. We initially come down here off this 1-minute gap. We see ES tap this gap. We see price initially bounce off it well, but then you see price consolidate and eventually come back down after tapping this 5-minute gap. And again, utilizing, right, what we know in the community, right, two biggest components with identifying the gap, and we end up having it here. So essentially, we end up utilizing this 5-minute gap for bias. ES slightly taps, it just taps the entry point. NQ ends up tapping well into the 5-minute gap, where we then see a rejection coming back down. And so for me specifically, as you guys know, one of my most favorite types of entry models is when we have two components or two indications in one. Essentially, you guys know most traders, what they end up doing is take a 1-minute gap and that's it. And I do that sometimes as well. But I love when we have multiple time frames in sync. And so for here, you see a 5-minute fair value gap here, a 5-minute bearish fair value gap get tapped into, and we see a beautiful rejection, rebalancing and respecting that 5-minute bearish gap. And then you also see a 1-minute bullish fair value gap turn a bearish inversion fair value gap. And now if we actually go to the Discord and we look up into the trade that I ended up giving out, before we end up taking this trade, I posted the idea in the commentary channel. You see me post it here, and I say, I'm potential 1-minute short. ES still has its Asia lows wide open. Idea here is 5-minute bearish gap rebalance, and then a 1-minute bullish FEG, which turns into a bearish IFEG. That's what we were looking for here. Stop placement off the swing high as a good invalidation point, or take profit 1 off our low of day. And we end up seeing price essentially do that. We come back down here and we eventually take entry. Here are the executions. We end up seeing price, or we end up seeing our entry around here, We then see price come down to shave off half our contracts at low of day. Then we end up, holding two with runners, and we end up trailing our position. Obviously, you guys know in the community, it's easy as fuck, to be honest. Not to, try to bring in signal bots, but you see me mention I am short. You see the idea, then you see me take the trade, then you see me essentially mark out when I break even to essentially when take profit smash, then my take profit too, and so on. Very easy to follow along. We end up capitalizing today on a day where most traders are probably sleeping in and doing butt fuck nothing. We came in with the idea of being conservative, but an opportunity presented through our model. We capitalized and we simply we're starting off the week 1-0. So a great week overall. With that being said, hope you guys enjoy the recap. I'm gonna catch you guys in the next one, and peace out.